Hello, beautiful people. I am turning on the camera for just a brief moment because I'm driving. Okay. Okay, I'm here. So, I wish I could actually, in some ways, record more while I'm driving, but I really have to focus. I'm one of those people that I really honestly do. Some people are really great at multitasking. I am not. And plus, most of the stuff I guess I'm talking about is pretty deep. But I'm going to try to record now. Hopefully, I don't have to re record this. So, I promised that I was going to be talking about some comedic things. And this is kind of comedic while it's not. When I think about comedic and comedy and things like that, I don't think of situations like this. I'm thinking more of, interacting with people, making jokes about dumb shit happening and whatever, right? And sometimes it's actually more funny to me than other people, but that's what I would think that I meant that I was going to be talking more about. But this is actually about, and I hope that you can hear this. I hope you can hear this. I'm charging my phone right now. Otherwise, okay, this is just going to be practice for the next one. Okay, so a week or so ago, my daughter and I were talking about basically about when she was younger and having crushes on boys, and like, so she's going to be 17 next month, and basically talking about crushes, and she didn't really know what love was, or she thinks of it so much more deeper now. And I'm laughing because, like, a lot of us, our ideas of what we think about our love are kind of skewed, right? Because it's just kind of what we've been shown on TV. There's that component, and then there's also some other people who think of love completely different, right? Or don't even know, don't think, believe it exists. But anyway, but we are referencing back to back in the day, and how she was saying she's so embarrassed of who she was, and when people told other people, oh, that she liked certain people and things like that, right? And she's totally not even boy crazy at all. Which, by the way, after seventh grade, we started her in homeschooling, so she has kick-ass lifestyle and does not miss um, being in school at all, except seeing a fight. Okay, so I was talking to her just a little bit. She's heard bits and pieces of my story, but she didn't really hear any of my romantic interest types. So, if you haven't listened to me before, basically, I had like a couple of dude friends, you grow up with, and I'll say their names. They'll probably never listen to my show. So it was basically Lenny and Rob Lurie, and then there's like one other. I would say like one other person in the mix, but we kind of like didn't always hang out. But those two first people that I said, I pretty much grew up with them. And Rob was more of like clown. He later became football player, big ass fucker now, I hear, at a like 6'4" or taller. And we don't really talk, and back and forth, kind of like over the years, exchanging like one or two conversations, right? But Rob was like the one who was like made fun of everybody, just like the jokester slash bully, though, kind of, in a way. But like, he apologized later in life. But he was one of my I don't even know if you would call him like he was a shadow over me. I liked him, and he was like, knew he was a good guy in his family of 7 or 8 siblings. But he always used to make fun of me, right? Like, uh physical image, right? Whatever, mustache, flat chested, skinny. And of not only that I didn't have social skills, but like, I didn't know what to say. Even back then, like, I didn't even know or to think of, because of all the fears or different things, right? Or I was feeling so bad about myself because I agreed with him, like to even say stop, which I didn't learn to do that until I was an adult, like 35. So I would say I always like had some wound healing during that time, with him. So that's why I say, okay, so that's what it was like with the dude friends. And then I always had like pen pals and stuff, but I never had actual serious romantic boyfriend, right? So we'll just say like couple makeout sessions with people. That was the extent of it. And there was nobody cool in my school anyway. Okay, so I'm laughing because I had these crushes on people, and some of them were long lasting, but I remember, just saying, oh, I just love, Jeremy Hess. That was his name. He had a bunch of cute freckles, and didn't even know him, right? Or anything. It was just based on like this infatuation with looks, and I would like tell everybody that. Definitely could be embarrassed, right? From like first grade to fifth grade or whatever it was, or first through third or fourth. And I remember again, like having crushes on like a few other people that were cute or whatever that I thought was cute, right? And Dan Van Arsdale was his name, white guy. And blonde white guy, and he was kind of newer to our school, didn't grow up with him. And I remember again, like I liked him for the physical and I didn't even know him. So you create this illusion in your mind, right? Like with them, like fantasizing, I don't know, holding hands or whatever bullshit, And I laugh because, looking at that time, it wasn't funny. This isn't funny because I totally rejected myself. This is the whole thing I talk about with don't shoot yourself down before you've started. And I laugh at myself thinking back to these, we'll say, crushes. And so long story short is just talking about to her, like, what makes a crush, what's love, what's whatever. And it's kind of like you build this whole idea up in your head, and people as adults do this too, right? And throw love out there. Maybe, I don't know necessarily. It's kind of like, yes, I believe you can love somebody like without knowing them. I think it's like if you go into the like different levels of love, it's not just brother, sister, family member. It's actually within romantic relationships, like somebody might be like, oh, I love them because they're a good wife, or they're a good mom, and they're a good dad, right? Or like they're a good wife, but like something else maybe that they don't like. So like they'll love aspects, like I said, at different levels. And that's the way I kind of can explain it, because a lot of this stuff, remember, if you haven't listened to me before, I'm the how. Like now that I've learned certain ways, and like how I use, like again, like the way I used to think, it's like, okay, why did I think that? Or why was I like that? Or, being hypnotized by my female friends and the beauty thing. Like, I know now why I did that. And I did so many things outside of my behavior. That's why I said it's like being hypnotized, by physical beauty. And so that's what I want to talk about in this short show. Hopefully this went through, since I think my microphone is covered up. But laughing about, it's not funny. It's really not funny. It's actually very hurtful. But I guess I keep saying that it's funny because I really want to say it's interesting and it's fascinating. And like what I was doing. Yeah, that's what I mean. I use the word funny a lot, but it's really more so that I find it fascinating and interesting. The way I used to think about guys and men and an illusion inside of my head, like not of them giving my worth, like thinking that being in a relationship and having them gives me my value and worth in the world. And that's the best way to describe it. I've said this before, that basically like, oh, he likes me or wants me, like I must be worth something. Okay, that's the best way to put it into words. So I'm going to go ahead and end this for now, because that pretty much sums up exactly what I wanted to say. And maybe I'm going to go back though and say it's funny, ha ha, in that you're young. Like people always say, oh, you're young. They're young and dumb, or they're just young and immature and don't really know. Like, maybe we're laughing at like secretly like the unfortunate reality that it's not what you think, like the fantasizing, because when real life comes about and like you're commingling and you have bills and you have kids and you have different things and you go through ups and downs, and maybe that's what we're laughing ourselves about, right? Fantasizing and creating some sort of I don't even know to say it's a fairy tale. I look at it as like fantasizing about something that is how can you fantasize? You don't even know. Like, what if you don't even like the person? Like Dave Van Arsdale. I didn't even know him. Jeremy Hess. Like, I knew him eventually, like, as, you know, as a classmate or whatever, but, like, I didn't really know him. So, creating this whole fantasy land and wanting him to be my boyfriend or whatever, like, what if I didn't even like him? Now it's kind of like even meeting adults. You might be fine as fuck, but who cares? Like, if you can't parallel park or boil an egg or push a broom, I mean, it's over, right? It's so funny. And you don't really learn those sorts of things until you, when I say work on yourself, when you build yourself and you kind of know and become more confident in like yourself, like who you are, your skills, your passions, your desires, your everything. That's what we mean by building yourself. Like, that's what I feel like wasn't explained to us. You know, working on yourself equals this. This is what you do. These are the things you can do to build yourself and what's going to happen as a result of it. And it's only because of my experience in realizing that culture, American culture, is kind of showing us that it's all about if you have somebody or not, and like what the other person, you know, almost like a relying, right? Like relying on them to bring you all of this happiness. And also, you know, 20, 30 years ago, and it still is to this day, like not much freedom. That's the type of relationship that makes me think like there's not a lot of freedom because you're so consumed by your significant, you know? And I just have learned to not be like that. So there's aspects definitely, of course, I love, but there's certain parts too, just in my spirit and stuff, like I gotta be free and still, you know, basically we each have our own things and we're living our lives like what we want to live. It's just you have that unit, you know, that team unit, and I love that and support that, even when I say things that may sound confusing in relationships. Like I feel like I'm talking bad about them, and that's not what I'm doing. I'm just kind of sharing, you know, parts of what I think about relationships and being committed ones. And at the same time too, they're totally a risk because people can change, you know, from day to day for whatever reason. You know, like I've said before too, even with memory issues, things, and people getting older, and you know, sometimes people and taking, you know, breaks and separations and things like that, you know, all that stuff. Too much of somebody all the time can be too much, you know? It's like, you again? Just like the saying goes, absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? Okay, people, I will talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.